Okay, so in the last episode, I talked about how John would kind of set people up, so to speak, by using his arm like an antenna, whereas it forced people to have to deal with him. Now, Tim, because he had great reach, Tim would do basically the same thing, only he would do it with touch. So both John and Tim, and I want to be clear about this because people don't get this, both John and Tim, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you believe, I don't care. I'm telling you. And by the way, because I always have to caveat these things, remember, what I'm telling you is based on my personal experiences working with my masters and how they did stuff, okay? So no one's going to tell me different about my own experiences working with them. The other thing I want to point out is, and I'll just say it, and that is, if you think that I'm saying something that's not correct, the question I have for you as the viewer is, then why aren't you doing these things yourself? If you know these things or you know better than what I am saying, and you may, I don't know. My question to you is, why don't you do it? This was one of the things that I used to see all the time where people would say things about, well, this is what they're doing, that's what they're doing. I'm like, okay, if you know that, why aren't you trying within your own body to try to do these things? Which tells me, now, you are guessing or you really don't know. You only think you know because you don't know how to model, as Tim taught me how to model John, as he modeled John. So you're just guessing, you're just mimicking something without any understanding. And I want to point that out because sometimes when I do these things and I talk about these things in videos, people don't get that. So when I tell you that nobody on planet Earth has more real training from John and Tim than I do, no, I'm telling you. That's not hyperbole, I'm telling you. Anybody who thinks differently, I have bad news for you. Trust me, you don't know. So anyway, with that said, so when Tim would be out here, Tim, because he had long arms, he was doing the same thing with John. Tim would touch your hands, and he would start off like this, because this was just a method he used to train people, to help people experience something, so that they could learn how to deal with another person's motion. So people would say to me, well, you're not really going to start a fight like this. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, we know that. I don't know why people didn't understand context. Here's the reality. Tim, when he wanted to go, he would just go. You stuck your hand out, he would slap your hand so hard, you think he hit you with a frying pan. I'm just telling you. But the other thing is, as Tim did stuff, he moved in a way where you had to deal with him. He always made you deal with him. Tim also loved to use deception. He loved to pulse people because, first of all, he was a scary dude. I'm just telling you, Tim was a scary dude. But also, as he was pulsing, he was setting you up for failure because he knew once you bid on it, again, what did Musashi say? When you get him to flinch, you've already won. And Tim feels you flinch in the slightest. I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is whatever he's going to do, it's going to happen fast. It'll be over quick. The bad news is you only get to see it one time if he really means it. So I'm just saying. So as I'm moving here and I'm doing this stuff, I can go in and out of this game. And Tim would go in and out of this game. Sometimes Tim would be like this. Sometimes he would switch his foot position. Tim just didn't like picking his feet up. That was just his own idiosyncrasy. Plus, I think a part of it was a function of his reach where he just knew he could just take people off the planet without really having to step far because he had long arms and he had some height on him. And it makes sense of why he did that. Tim was all about, as he said to me one time, you want to be a lazy fighter. Meaning, he's not like this. He's like, no, I'm a lazy fighter. Okay, fight's over, done. I'm going to crack your windpipe. Or, here's what I'll tell you. And he would take that Randall knife out that he had and just eviscerate you, find out what you had for lunch, that kind of thing. So as Tim did things, he would do something similar to John where he would use his hands and his body in a way where he would make you have to deal with him. But he was basically doing the same thing. And he would get into this stuff. Like one of the things Tim would do is those hands would come up. He would have this light touch sometimes, and then all of a sudden your arm is jacked, not realizing that what he did was he pulsed you and created the path he wanted you going. And he would give you the heel of that hand for those who've experienced this, what I'm talking about. And so you get all happy because he was giving you false hope. See, that's what this is. This is hope. And you want to hit him so bad. You'd be like, oh, I got him. And then all of a sudden your arm's like this and he's punching you in the ribs. You know, you feel like he's thumping you with a baseball bat. And then, of course, he tells you, you got to get loose here. You got to get looser here. It's like, well, I don't know how that's going to happen. You keep like hitting me like that, but okay. And so he would just do these things. He would be moving with you and he would catch your arms like this and he would just start wailing on you. And the reason it happened is because you didn't realize everything he was doing was the same thing he was doing that John was doing, only he was already in direct contact and he was leading and pacing you to move into the positions he wanted you in, setting you up for failure to basically take you out. Brilliant stuff that these guys did. Absolutely brilliant.